Welcome everyone to another episode of the Pros Talk. I'm your host Dave Annable from Ontario Approved Professionals, and joining me today is Chris Jackson from Finest Values Marketing Group. How are we doing, sir?
Doing great, Dave. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm glad you bit the bullet. You were one of the first to respond to come on this thing, and here we are, number 12. So 11 people were just that much more eager.
Well, I'm an early adopter. I tend to decide quickly, and then it always takes me
You
time.
did. I sent out the applications, and you're like, "Bam, I'm in. Just tell me when." And I was like, "That's not the process, Chris. Is you were supposed to pick a time and date. Dave's too expensive to be your assistant."
Typical advertising guy, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You need to do the work.
Well, it's one of the things. It's cool to have you on because one of the things that everyone's been like is, "Oh, well, what's this Pros Talk thing, and what's the benefit to me?" I mean, it's an advertising play. There are so many mediums, and we're going to get into a bunch of them with you because that's your game. That's what you do. So, Chris, the benefit of this Pros Talk is I wanted an avenue where people could get to know the people that they normally tend not to meet. A lot of our members are probably going to say, I know Chris. I think I've met him once or twice, but I haven't seen him boots on the ground as much as maybe Karen or someone else. So who is Chris? What drives Chris kind of in this industry?
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So do you want to hear about how we started?
Sure. Yeah. Because I mean, I know, Sealy's Bay, advertising guru. You and I met 10 years ago now, and it was an advertising play back then. And just, introduce us to who Chris Jackson is and where all this came from.
Well, I'll give you, some people would call this an I story.
Yeah.
Which is, basically it's my origin story to maybe borrow that from
Perfect.
Book. So basically I grew up in Gananoque, a small town kid, loved the area. Went to school at St. Lawrence College for marketing. Ended up there sort of on a whim. Decided I should probably go and continue my education process, and landed in the marketing program at St. Lawrence College. And at that time, I was working for a local restaurateur. His name was Jerry Warren. He owned Aunt Lucy's. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah.
Famous restaurant,
Yeah.
well known for its service. Been there for a long time. It's gone now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I worked there for 3 years while I was in school, and developed a good education from him on the importance of customer service. I always remember walking into the dining room from the kitchen. On the wall above the door heading in was a big sign that said, "If we don't take care of the customer, someone else will."
Yeah.
And that really drove home,
That's a good statement.
It's a good statement, yeah. Yeah, it's really important, I think, that you need to be customer focused in all aspects of your business. And so anyway, I had finished the program at St. Lawrence College, and I had worked on the bar. I was a bartender, and I was also a waiter, and then they approached me to become a manager. And I loved being a bartender, I loved being a waiter, and hated being a manager. It was a horrible experience for me. And so about 8 months in, I started looking for an opportunity, and I was flipping through the local newspaper in Kingston. It was called the Kingston This Week. And I came across an ad for a Canadian advertising agency franchise. And I thought to myself, hey, that sounds interesting. Why don't I get involved in advertising? Because I'd studied marketing and I really liked it. I definitely didn't want to be a salesperson, selling, coffee or whatever, frozen food or whatever.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, I'm gonna learn how to be an advertising agency. So I called up the company. It was originally their very first iteration of what I'm doing now was called Good News Advertising and Mail.
Okay.
So we would mail an envelope, a number 10 envelope, about that big, full of coupons into different neighborhoods in the city. Very similar to Valpak, which is an American company.
Yeah, that's probably one this generation would probably remember the most would be that Valpak.
Yeah, so we were sort of a Canadian version of it, and owned by who I often refer to as my mentor in business. His name was Tom Tyson, and Tom was he was older when I met him. He's probably in his older back then to me.
Yeah, we're old now.
Right. So he was in probably his mid-60s at the time.
Yeah.
And he was a lifelong salesman. So he was the guy that would travel across Canada selling encyclopedias.
Grassroots, real salesman.
Yeah. For those people that don't know what an encyclopedia is, that's essentially what.
My parents used to buy those. What was it, Encyclopedia Britannica?
Yeah.
They'd have those collections and sell you every year the new ones because one thing changed.
Yeah, very smart, brilliant marketing, right? He also was a Fuller Brush guy too. So he was this was die-hard door-to-door sales is what this guy learned how to do.
On the roads.
On the road all the time. So he took that knowledge and turned it into an advertising franchise, which was called Good News Advertising and Mailing. And so he had taken all that skill, which is really and basically packaged it up into a package that he could sell and bring people into and become a distributor, essentially selling these products. So the reason I like talking about Tom is that he taught me the art of salesmanship, or sales, and that how important it is in coming to, getting really to build a client base and have people purchase your product. So the other tenet of direct mail is it's really focused on driving a response, or it's called direct response advertising. And to me, that's super important because we want to show our clients that we're generating a return on investment for them. And so I did that for 7 years. And in the 7 years between the early 90s and the late 90s, huge changes started happening in printing. Yeah. One of the big ones was full color printing was becoming significantly less expensive to produce. So I had...
Sorry, it was getting cheaper?
Cheaper, yes.
Oh. Yeah. Because ink's one of those things that most people don't realize is more expensive than crude oil.
Yes.
Ink's like I think it's the number one most expensive thing humans use.
Well, I would think that's the ink you buy at Staples.
Yes, well that's what I mean. Like the people going to Staples
printing.
to buy these cartridges, those things are crazy pricey.
Yeah,
you wouldn't be doing them if you had to buy it at Staples.
That should be illegal. Yeah. It makes me crazy when I have to go buy printing, and I guess maybe it's because I know what it costs to actually print things.
Yeah.
And the majority of the cost in mass-produced printing is really the stock, the paper.
Right.
And anyway, so we had developed. So printing was becoming less expensive because the technology was changing, and it would take basically it was in order to do printing on a local level, you'd have to be super specialized.
Right.
In the early 90s, as we got to the end of the 90s, it became much more affordable, and so as the technology changed, our format was also changing. And what had happened was an associate of mine from Ottawa who was doing a magazine called Ottawa's Finest approached me and said, "Hey, you should do this. It's working well," and so I decided that I would give it a try because the two-color printing technology
had just dropped.
Yeah, and people were, and so I said to myself, okay, I'm going to maintain what I'm doing with the envelope, and then I'm going to do the magazine at the same time, and I sort of melded them together. And then Tom Tyson, the guy that had started the Good News franchise, died unexpectedly. He was a little older. And his wife called me and said, "Hey, do you want to take the presses and become a printer?" Essentially, and I didn't want to become a printer because I knew I was a sales guy and an advertising guy. So I said, "Thanks, but and I took all my clients and any obligations I had to existing customers. We just poured them into the format, which was the magazine that's now called Kingston's Finest.
Right.
Here. So basically, it's again, it's a bit the size of the Reader's Digest. And then we mail it out to people in Eastern Ontario. So we did that. The very first issue of Kingston's Finest was in 1997 in September, and then we just have been publishing continuously ever since. One of the things I'm most proud about the magazine is I actually have customers that were in that first issue that are still buying from me.
Oh, that is cool. That is a testament to we're going to talk advertising, customer service, everything all across the board. But when you've got somebody that goes 97 to 21.
That's crazy.
It's unheard of.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. And I always tell people, Dave, I say, I'm sure they like me, but they don't like me that much.
No, it has to be producing results.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I remember when we first met, we were talking about, the group and getting things in and advertising with it. It was that recurring return, I think, was the biggest trigger for me as a customer. That was a key element. And print is such a hard thing to sell. I mean, we can't negate that in today's age. But as we sit here coming, a full year in a pandemic, well, where are the people? Direct to mail to home.
Yeah.
So you are actually touching the majority of the people, whereas now we're seeing this trend that maybe they're a little more hesitant to pick up that newspaper because they're not out and about or what have you. People aren't in their cars as much. So they're not listening to the radio. You're never going to beat the boob tube. You're never going to beat the TV because everyone's zombies and watches the thing. But a lot of them are on streaming services now, which don't have commercials. So direct to mail to a consumer right now, sitting at home in a pandemic situation, you're touching probably a higher volume than you would have even a year ago.
Well, we've always
In
enjoyed
sense.
we've always enjoyed a good level of response for our clients.
Yeah.
It's increased. This is anecdotally, of course.
Yeah.
I just know what people tell me. I was just in a client's the other day.
Well, if they keep buying, they're obviously telling you it's working.
Well, yeah. So I get my information comes from the customers, and
Yeah.
sometimes I think sometimes the clients don't really tell me how well they're doing because they're afraid I'm going to increase the prices, which we don't do.
Yeah.
By the way, just a quick story. I was in with one of my again long-term client in Kingston. She owns a company called Wine Kids. It's a winemaking operation.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, there's a couple here in Brockville. They're all over the place. So she said to me, "Oh, that was the best response." And she stopped me. She said, "I think we've ever had." And she grabbed a handful of responses. She had done an ad with a 15% off discount or something like that.
Okay, so she had physical.
Yeah, she just held them up, and there they were in her hand. And I'm like, "Well, that's great." And that just goes to show you that one, she's an established 20-year plus. 25-year old business at least, and she's been with me probably for 15 years, and so people are reading it and they're responding. And the reality is that I think you said earlier that print is declining. It's not. Print is actually doing just fine. People read it and respond to it, and one of the challenges with marketing and advertising today is that there's 25 or 30 years ago, it was easy. You had one TV station and one radio station and one newspaper. Easy decision to make. Well, now there's so many avenues that you can choose. The key is to find one that you like and fits with your personal branding or your belief system, and then dial into that.
And one of the big things too is, you can advertise on social media, radio, blah blah blah, right? But we were speaking before the podcast about your acquisition costs and costs to get people. It's almost like, you remember the old Columbia records where you could buy the subscription and you got 12 CDs for a penny, but then they locked you into this contract. And
CDs, so I was cassettes.
So remember when we bought records?
That's
No.
right.
But anyway, it's that mentality with social media that people don't understand, because this generation hasn't ever experienced Columbia Warehouse. But Facebook advertising looks so cheap, right? But are you actually touching people? Like, are you actually getting response? Are you actually, whereas with you, if you can go and say, listen, I got a client and she can show you, 50 coupons on a 1-week mailer. I'm sorry, but that's results.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're still paying after 15 years, 20 years, 5 years, whatever.
Well, the other thing I think is, I always like to tell people too, is we don't charge for the repeat business.
Yeah, you did say that to me during one of our talks.
Yeah. So if we bring you a brand new customer, they keep buying from you, and if you're doing your job, they're going to keep buying from you, and that's really what it's all about. Is the acquiring a customer, making them happy, and never letting them go. Right?
Yeah, I sponsor a junior golf tournament, and it was all about sponsoring some kids to get active and play some golf, and I forget what it was. It's like $400 a year. It was nothing. I got one of my largest clients off of that, and I called the guy that organizes it, and I said, never ask for a sponsorship again. And he's like, oh no, what? And I was like, no, I'm lifer now. Like, that $400 yielded so much that I want to pay you. So your customers and your contributors, if they're seeing value, the best gratitude and appreciation they can give you is to keep advertising.
I have one of my best clients, the fellow that's with me from my first issue to now.
Yeah.
His name's Nick Ham. He owns a company called Safe Step Building Treatments in Kingston. And we go out for lunch, and he always makes me pay, which is fine. Because he's been very loyal.
Because we got to keep customers happy.
Very happy. Yes, he's always happy when I buy him lunch. And
sirloin steak and a lobster.
Yes, whatever. I always tell him whatever you want. And he shared with me a story once, and he's in sort of a niche market. It is basement waterproofing. Yeah. And he does this cement product called Screed Agili. It's a self-leveling concrete.
Oh yeah, so like for floor. Yeah.
He probably know this. I'm not a contractor. I pick up bits of information and I learn stuff. But so he'd shared with me, and this was a few years ago, that he goes, I just landed a contract. There's a hotel being built in Belleville, and they're going to spend a large amount of money with me. And I said, good. I said, I guess we don't have to talk about renewing you again for a few more years. And he laughed. And the point of the story is that, here's a very specific product with a very specific niche application, and here he is making a very handsome ROI.
Yeah, a non-niche ROI.
Yeah. And the key really is volume, and that's what we bring to the table, is that if you anything that I always tell people, there's no really any magic formula to advertising. You do 3 things, right? The first one is, develop a consistent message. Get an appealing offer that will attract people, and that could be, a percentage off your services. It could be just telling people that you're available to fix something, and then deliver the goods, right? Get the message out there to as many people as possible. And that's what we bring to the table. I mean, our circulation, in Eastern Ontario is 1 million pieces a year. That's just with the magazine. That's a big number.
I never would have guessed it was that high.
Yeah, 1 million pieces a year. So
That's why it's so hard to get a hold of you. Too busy mailing 1 million things.
Just shy. There's a I always tell people, it's no magic formula, right? 60. If you do, for example, Brockville, we mail 40,000 magazines in the greater Brockville area. So 40,000.
That's quarters, right?
We go 6 times a year.
6 times a year. Sorry,
So
I thought it was
under
4,
well,
6.
The pandemic has sort of messed up our schedule a little bit, but under ideal circumstances, we're mailing.
No, I just want people to get a good sense that this is 6 editions, totaling 40,000-ish prints going out.
Almost
it's not every week. 40,000 doesn't sound a lot if you're thinking about a newspaper.
So when we do, and I always like when I try to educate my clients or potential customers, and I tell them, they always say, "Wow, how am I? Can you guarantee results?" And I'm like, "Well, no, I can't. Can't guarantee anything. If I could, you'd happily pay me more money.
Yeah.
And I would be charging you a lot more money for those services as well."
I always find those people that want that guarantee are kind of nobody ever guarantees we're going to wake up in the morning. We all go to bed. Nobody's going to guarantee that you and I walk out this front door right now that I'm not going to get hit by a car or a piece something fall from the sky. There's no guarantees in life in any way, shape, or form. But I would always, me personally, if I heard somebody, and we were in an advertising talk and, you're doing your thing being polite to all the clients, I'd almost say, do you know your ROI, your return on investment? Do you tell me the advertising you're doing and tell me that you're tracking it works? A lot of people just ignore that fact. They pay because there's this deal.
Yeah, it's a deal.
But they never follow through. It's one thing for me as a business owner to hire Chris and say, "Listen, I want to advertise and find this." If I cut the check and never do anything else, did it pay off? And did I get anything from it? Should I renew? Is Chris doing his job? Did I do my job? People have to follow through and realize, and like that lady with the coupons, you have to be able to track it and with pride show a wad of coupons that walk through that door. Because that not only confirms she did the right thing by advertising with you, but that you're doing the right thing. And that spreads. I think it's one of those things that most businesses, they say they're too busy to, acquisition costs, ROIs, all this stuff. People have to really focus. And the only way we get our businesses known is through advertising.
Well, there's 2 ways, right? You can do it the old-fashioned way, which is open your store, cross your fingers, and hope someone comes in and do it really slowly. And that's how I started my business. Is it was all cold calling.
Same here.
Until I got my clients. You can do it that way. The thing about advertising, and there's an old adage in advertising, which is word of mouth advertising is the most powerful form. Well, and that's very true. Satisfied customers will tell other people about your work, but most of the time, people won't say good things about you, even when you do them. And so advertising will help you lever that relationship by bringing in people and introducing them to your business. And what we do is really send them out a reason to contact you to do business with you. And maybe that's, again, an offer. Earlier we were talking about the circulation and success rates. And I always like to do a little math with people. And what I like to say is we mail 40,000 magazines out. If you get a 1% response rate of people just seeing your ad, that is 400 people. Yeah. Right? 10% of them picking up the phone and giving you a call is 40. If I get 40 leads to you, are you going to be happy? Well, I'd say most businesses probably only need 4 or 5 good solid leads. And if you're doing your job and a person self-identifies and says, "Hey, I'd like to engage with you and do some
40 engagements is a decent return, I think, for any small business.
It's huge. Well, even 5. Let's face it. If you've got an average sale of, and again, I always talk about the magic number. What's the magic number? Right?
Yeah, what's your magic number?
So what is the magic number? The magic number is you want to know how much you're willing to pay to get a client to become a customer of yours.
And it's all varying on different business types, and everyone has a different model.
Yeah.
And that's got to be the reason that you stay up at night is you got to balance between that cost and threshold of a hair salon versus a large concrete contractor.
Yeah.
Their budgets are different.
They are different, and however, it's like the difference between buying a donut, and buying having a renovation put on your house. A renovation you only do every 5 or 10 years. A donut you might buy every day.
Look at me, once a day. No, it is true though, but also, flip side to what I said, where a construction company versus a hair salon. Construction company is really the one being risky by advertising because, like you say, they're so niche. The self-leveling concrete or the step systems, whereas a hair salon, they're the ones that are going to see a wad of coupons, redemptions, and tracking, and they're the ones that really almost want to spend that extra money to gain that level. Because again, if you told me that 1% is probably high for the concrete guy, if he got that one big lead in Belleville, he's happy.
Oh, one a year.
But one haircut, a salon's not going to be happy.
Well, absolutely.
They want the 40.
Well, you're right. They want the 40, and the other thing is it's important to know, what I know that your wife owns a hair salon, so let's use her business as an example.
Absolutely.
So if I'm going to your wife to get my hair cut, what's the average cut for a woman?
Right now, $10,000 fine through the Ontario government.
Well, so let's pretend.
Men's haircut. She's gonna shoot me.
Well, let's use women. Let's use women.
That's even worse. So let's go men. That's $20, I believe, for a men's cut.
So believe it or not, I still get my hair cut. I always tell my hair salon guy that he's been cutting my hair for 25 years, and every 6 weeks I go to see him, and it's $20 to get my hair cut. So 20. Every 6 weeks, that's 8 times a year. That's $160 a year times 25 years is $5,000.
Yeah,
give or take. Maybe a little bit less. And that's a good example right there of a hair salon. Yeah. Yes, they're going to have a smaller purchase individually each time the purchase is made, but
throughout a lifetime of somebody devoting 20 years to that stylist, plus you say $5,000, but let's say you get 40 leads off of it. We're now at $20,000
exactly.
Just based on a $500 ad.
Yes. And that brings us back to the importance of knowing what you're prepared to spend to get a client in the door. And a lot of people don't know that number. And so quickly, the easy math is what's your average purchase? Right. How often do people buy from you on an annual basis? And how long do they stay with you over their lifetime? If you're doing your job, people will stay with you as long as you are.
Yeah, I guarantee my wife wouldn't know. She wouldn't know our customer acquisition costs. Yeah. And I can tell you that pretty surely because I don't know it for her.
Yes.
So she probably doesn't know.
Well, it's a good exercise to go through because all of a sudden you realize that, hey.
Sometimes a scary one because some people are so far off because they've never looked at it.
Yeah.
You're actually burning money.
Yeah. Yes. Or you might look at the number and think, well, it actually makes sense to spend it.
Yeah, I've got that $1 per client and I do 40 clients or whatever. Yeah, no, I agree. Mine's sitting around $300 as an architect. It's high, but my return is also higher. I'm not charging $20 for a set of blueprints, right?
Yeah. Everyone's number is different, and I do. Lately, I've been doing a lot of work for garages, and I've come to learn that
auto service.
Yeah, car repair. And it's another part of our business that we've been developing, which is our direct mail solo program. And so I've been mailing postcards for people really all over.
So those postcards, so these are individual. Hold one up.
So this
we'll make sure we get a picture up as well.
So this is one for a retirement home in.
So they're an individual front and back kind of everything to do with said retirement home.
Correct.
And that's Bridalwood?
That's Bridalwood.
Yes. Yeah, so everything to do with Bridalwood. Front and back, and that goes out separate or with the magazine?
This would be mailed completely separate.
Okay.
It's a completely different campaign. Yeah. So
and frequency?
Whenever you want. So it's basically
so they can pick it like a season time of year.
So, I used to say shotgun and rifle, but I feel like a sweater and a scarf is a bit more of a friendly approach.
I like that. Yeah.
So we'll cover you like a blanket or a sweater with a magazine.
Yeah.
Mass coverage, whereas a postcard would be more like a scarf, if that makes sense, where you need a little more protected. So the with the garages, and again using them as an example, talking about ROI, is a garage, their average lifetime customer people will spend with a garage is about $15,000 for one. That's the one time oil change. You never see them again. That's the guy that buys forever. So 15 grand over the course of a lifetime of the customer, that's a lot of money, you know? So again, you do a direct mail campaign, whether it's in the magazine or whether it's with a postcard, you get a 1% response rate. That's a ton of return.
Do you see that you get a lot more, like, do you find that it's easier, I assume it is, but easier with those ones that are able to, like I'm seeing the Bridlewood Home ones, you get a free lunch with it. But I mean, that surprises me to see that. But with the auto place, are they like $5 off an oil change? A hair salon can say $5. The ones that are, like for me as an architect, I can't do a coupon. I wouldn't know what to do. Do you find it's easier with those people that can do the one-off coupons in the magazine and the directs, or is it only the one?
So that's what we call an offer. So you make an offer, and so the offer.
I figured there was a term.
The offer, could be, in your case, you could do a half-hour free consultation.
Right.
It depends, and the key is, it's about the perception of value when you're crafting your offer.
Okay.
And so a value.
You guys help with that?
Absolutely, yeah. So I'll give you an excellent example that I like to use is like some people say, well, why don't we just do 10% off?
Right.
And I'm like, that's great. But 10% off is not going to motivate someone to pick the phone up and self-identify that they want to do business with you.
No, it's too common of a number, right?
Exactly. So if your average sale is, say, $500, why not do $50 off?
Yeah.
Because $50
change it.
Yes, we'll get someone's attention pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Right? So and that's really the key, is to have an appealing offer, and it doesn't have to cost you. It doesn't have to cost
you your first bone.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. You just have to have that perception of value, and people have to look at that and think, yeah, that's worth, picking the phone up and maybe changing my purchasing habit and going to this new person, right?
And it doesn't hurt to ask you either. I mean, you've been doing this long enough that you should probably know what their competitors are doing, or someone of similar in another region that, that like 10% off, I knew right away that is just too common of a number that people actually ignore the word 10%. But if you change it to what the dollar value is of 10%, people are also too stupid to figure out that's only 10%.
Yeah, well, maybe they're busy.
Well, no, they're distracted. They're distracted. They just look at it.
World.
I see it all the time. I'm like, that's only a 1% discount. That's not a discount. Yeah, and it's like, but it says $50.
It can have the opposite effect too, which I've seen before as well. I mean, we have a long-term relationship with a paver in Kingston, and we did an ad for them once, and the offer was $500 off a paving job, which if you ever had your driveway paved is not
a lot.
Yeah, not a lot. However, he said didn't get any calls, so we changed it because to $100. We lowered it, actually even less. Results went up. Why? Because people read the ad and they think $500. Good Lord, how much does it cost for me to pave my driveway, right? Yeah. And they self-selected themselves out for even getting a quote. And by changing the offer, maybe making it less.
I wonder how many of them kept the first issue and used the $500 coupon after they figured out it was still that expensive.
that was a long time ago, so I don't know. But he continued to advertise with
This is what keeps me up at night, is I think of all these little. Did they say the other article when they realized you lessen the deal and they called?
Yeah. So you know what? I think that may happen occasionally, but I think it's one of those rarities.
I love just human idiocies and the common sense and how it trips people up. And numbers are one of those things that I'm not going to go all political in COVID on you, but no matter what your standpoint is on COVID, the majority of the information being portrayed, if it's fake or not, is all due to simple math that people can't follow when people talk. Yeah. You get lazy and you stop thinking on your feet, and if you can't do math, it's very easy to deceive somebody. Mm-hmm. So clean, smart advertising and knowing the right approach from an expert is how to get the message across to guarantee the return on an investment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, guarantee's a loaded word too, because as I said,
loaded. I mean, it works. You wouldn't be sitting here after 20 plus years.
I have seen people do everything wrong.
Yeah.
And get a great result, and I've seen people do everything right and get a horrible result.
Yeah.
The key with it in marketing and advertising and really life, 101, is frequency and consistency. Yeah. Get a message, get it out there on a regular basis, and just do it all the time.
Well, with that brand awareness, right? Like that's the term most people will know, because I think it's there. Like there's a reason everything's blue at Walmart.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that blue and the yellow. Yeah. And McDonald's. There's a reason there's this giant golden arch everywhere you go. They're pounding that subconsciously into your head. And when people sit down at a doctor's office or at a friend's house and pick up that table reader, like I said, that Reader's Digest size magazine that you guys put out, and if they did it every time, they would slowly see that recurring one. They're going to forget the one that only advertised with you once. But the ones that they see on the cover with the logo, and then they find the ad inside.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I remember my dad had subscribed to this, he was a member of like some, Mr. Rooter. It was a US thing.
Oh, yeah.
It was a franchise, but they had a little magazine that was kind of like news for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
They had this little plumber, but they had a worm, and the worm was hidden throughout the magazine.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And it just made you spend weeks looking for that worm. But what they were really doing is putting it near all the logos.
Yes. Yeah. Engaging.
Yeah, it's just smart little thing that all these plumbers are, pun intended, sitting on the shitter, reading this magazine that gets mailed to them once a month, and they're looking for a worm next to everybody's logo, and they're just bam, 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 and it was really cool. But that frequency and that repetitiveness. I mean, people can't advertise once and say, well, never heard anything from that, I'm dropping this forever.
It's like an exercise program, right?
Yeah.
Or, or a diet, you try it for a day, and guess what? It didn't work. Oh, well, just stop doing it.
Yeah, I don't feel any better.
I always, I always feel a little bit of guilt, I suppose, because I think that, my job is to sell advertising, and of course I'm going to say you should buy it all the time.
Yeah.
But the reality is that, if I am doing my job, and you are generating a return on investment, you're going to happily purchase from me, because that's what it's all about, David, is we want to make people money. I want people to smile when they see me coming in the door, because they're thinking, that guy, he's making me money. And that's the idea. Is at the end of the day, is we got to get that phone to ring. We're in the lead generation business, and we specialize in driving traffic to your website, to your phone number, or hopefully when we get out of this pandemic, to your actual store.
Yeah, well, that's the other trick. But what I want to kudos to you guys too is not only a lead generator, but like I made a post this morning on social media, and Karen was able to send me one of your advertisers' pages because I'm looking for this person, and boom, I've got everything I need. One more, I'm going to support you and Karen by using that person and tell them, key people, tell them you found it in Finest. Because if I don't say, hey, by the way, Finest Values is the reason you're getting this call, they'll never know.
Yes.
Because most people don't ask, which is another error. But then I can report back to you and Karen saying, hey, guess what? And it's for an honest shed. I bought that shed.
Yes.
And they're going to know it was from you.
Oh, perfect. That's great news.
No, that is good news.
That's a good product. And when Karen landed that account, and Karen's been working with me for 5 or 6 years now, I guess. I was pretty pleased.
It's like answering how many years you're married. You're going to get in trouble no matter what your answer was. Karen will correct us after.
It's been such a great experience that it's all blurred into one happy length of time. So that's a good category. Home improvement's a great category.
It is, and especially in the pandemic right now, because everyone's stuck at their homes, finding out what's wrong. And they're doing that, but these Amish sheds seem to be going like wildfire.
Well, and the reality is that there's more disposable income at home than there ever been before, because people aren't traveling. They're not going out to restaurants. My example is, my gas bill. I drive 60.
We're just doing your head.
60,000 kilometers a year is what I drive normally, and my gas bill's probably dropped in half.
So you're probably the same as me. Do you laugh when they put the little oil change sticker on your window, and it's like, so we're in April right now.
3 months, or
it'll be like 3 months, and it's like, what is it, 7,000 kilometers? And I'm like, I'll have that done by next Friday.
See you next week.
Because my guys stick it all the time, and they're like, and I'm like, how is 7,000 kilometers supposed to get me to June? Well, I was like, no. But I've noticed, I did year end, right? We're getting into year end now. And I noticed too, my gas expense is like, it's gone.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact that, you're probably not
eating
drive-through, going to Starbucks as much.
Because if I drive to Kingston to see a client, I would have needed lunch, or I've taken out to lunch the client and picked up a coffee on the way back. None of it happened, plus the gas.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy.
So it is crazy. Yeah.
But no, I thought it was a good thing that Karen was able to send an actual account.
Well, that also says, that speaks to our culture too, David, because at the end of the day, I want everybody that's interacting with us to do well, and whether that's a direct response directly from the magazine, and it's actually, I just got a notification. We are in the social media business now.
Yes.
I am still learning how to use it properly. I had a notification from a fellow the other day asking about a duct cleaner.
Oh yeah.
And I knew who he was talking about because we deal actually a great local company, EnviroPlus Duct Cleaning.
Yeah, I know Gary. I know
Jackie and Gary.
Yeah,
Great people.
Known them for years.
Yeah.
They're one of our biggest home show registrants.
Oh,
They swear by it.
Yes.
And they don't do much else with us other than the trade show. But yeah, they're great.
So they've been supporting us for a long time now, probably.
And they're a big outfit.
Yeah, very big operation and wonderful people. And so Jackie, so I knew that he was looking for EnviroPlus Duct Cleaning. So I responded immediately. I said it's EnviroPlus Duct Cleaning, and that's the point. Is I want him, if he wants to do something with Jackie and Gary's company, I want them to get there as quickly as possible because they're a great organization. They've been super loyal to us, and we've been super loyal to them.
So I know they follow what I do, and they're heavy in my social media. So Gary, did you ask that client if they got your lead from Finest Values?
So his name is Mike Dwyer. I know him.
Yeah.
I know Mike because he used to be an advertising sales rep at the Wig Standard. I think he's retired now. But anyway, the point is that that's what we're all about, right?
Yeah.
We're really about. One of the challenges I think in today's marketplace is that a lot of people in the field of marketing and advertising, a lot of the products are owned by large corporations, and I have this. I don't like them. And I won't swear. I know you said it was okay, but the reality is that they don't care about all they care about is
Not
how
a
much
dollar.
possible money they can squeeze out of the client. They don't care.
Not even ROI for their clients.
Yeah.
They don't care. They want to see how much you're selling, not versus how happy the clients are.
Well, and then you factor in that if they're paying, they're charging a large dollar for this, they're paying their sales team next to nothing or very little for the expertise it takes. Also, these guys, in a head office can bonus themselves until they did a great job. They don't care about the results. All they care about is how much they're charging. Whereas I feel that I genuinely want our customers to do well because if they do well, we do well, and it's a good positive feedback loop,
Well, and that's the first thing I'm going to say with this Amish shed. I think it's Jay at the Amish shed place. When I connect with him, it's the first thing I'm going to educate him is that ad you got in Finest. I didn't see it. It was the salesperson that personally sent me all of your
Well, you
full
did see
flyer.
it because you knew it was in there, and you asked.
Well,
Karen.
I hadn't seen it yet, but I wanted him to know that you guys are going that extra mile.
Absolutely.
And that's what I was kind of looping into is not only are you in that marketing, but I mean, you and Karen with the amount of people and businesses like, hey, I'm looking for blank. Chances are you guys know somebody in the region.
My kids, when they were younger, they always said, "Yeah, my dad's got a guy for everything."
Yeah, but that's it. I'm saying you guys have a guy or gal for everything. And they may not be an existing client, but I know the testament to both of your characters, you'll still share that name, even if they're not a client anymore, if you don't have a replacement.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's key. So that's good, Chris. We beat that one to a dead horse, but what else are we gonna chat about? So, I want to touch on like you say, the return on investment and the acquisition. Let's put our business hats on for a bit because I know it's ahead of time. You mentioned it twice, and knowing that cost. Not only just advertising, but getting you to where you're at. Because again, I know like Sealy's Bay, Gananoque, small company. You're really not a small company in my opinion. The more I learn about you guys have a pretty big area that you're covering.
Well, yeah, we're the largest circulation in each region, to my knowledge. We out-circulate all the local newspapers.
Right.
And
From Sealy's Bay.
Yeah, from Sealy's Bay. Well, I'm home-based.
But you know what I mean.
My marketplace is the
Bay,
world. Yeah.
But people don't realize that is. So as much as I'm a customer, I'm banking on you to do some advertising with me.
Mm-hmm.
But you're grinding a large business from incubation
Yes.
into what it is, and congratulations to say that you're one of the largest circulators in those three major regions. That's awesome, man. It truly is, and I think sometimes we have, we don't see ourselves with high pride or for whatever reason, but that's an accomplishment.
Well, thank you.
It is. I didn't know it, and that's like I'm thinking Valpak and all these other ones. That means you're surpassing the magnitude that those guys are, because guess what? They don't exist anymore.
Well, they do. That's right.
Yes, and you do.
Well, why? We pivot, we
Yeah.
move, we change, and we adjust constantly. And again, at the end of the day, I always tell people, if you're if you're a client of mine, you don't talk to me, you can call me anytime. I may not answer the phone after 9 or 10 o'clock at night, but I'll certainly get back to you the next day.
Well, you're doing better than me because you're not getting me after 5 o'clock. I'm one of those guys that I hate this device. I hate the cell phone. I got one, so I'm 43. So yeah, I was like 33 when I got my first cell phone. I do not like to be found. And I find it's just an invasion of privacy. So I'm 9 to 5. I turn it on and off.
Yeah.
And my wife hates it because we don't have home phone or anything anymore, right? So to get a hold of me, it's sitting there with 20-something notifications right now, and I don't care. Whereas other people would be like just sitting there buzzing, right? You left yours in your vehicle when you came in, and I'm like, we're gonna get along.
So I'm very responsive when people want to communicate with me. And I do agree that it often can be an invasion of privacy. So one thing I do is when my phone stays in the kitchen when I go to bed. It does not go into the bedroom with me at all.
Same.
And if I don't want to talk to people, I won't interrupt a conversation, to talk to somebody on the phone. But I will say that I find it to be useful. And 20 notifications. That's not very many in my world.
No, it's not. Mondays I'm closed, so this is an easy day.
I went through my phone one day, just in our peak seasons, which typically is spring, and I went and just for fun, I went and counted all the text messages, phone calls, voicemails, emails, and I got up to about 350 in one day, which was crazy. Some of them were multiple calls back and forth and stuff.
But it's still calls. It's still everything happens.
Yeah,
see, I'm one of those guys that business-wise, I made a very conscious decision that I like my time. I work very hard during my time. But I don't give clients my cell phone number.
Yes, well, smart.
None. So that's why mine are so low. But the builders have it because they're my payees, right? They bring me the butter.
Yes.
Right? So they have it. But yeah, I mean, we can get up to about 100 calls in a day, emails, messages, and all that. I just find it so daunting sometimes. I think one of the things I've said a few times on the podcast is I hope the pandemic teaches a little more patience and peace of mind. Like you and I were talking about the great exodus, I call it, where these big cities are coming to our cities, and being a stay-home work body, are people going to realize the grass is greener in these rural communities and come invade our green grass? I think it will happen. I love my little humble abode. I've got my own little spot that I can sit in my back deck and not hear a thing. Mm-hmm. Times are changing, and I'm not saying we're going to become Toronto, but it's going to get busier.
Well, yeah, certainly it's changing for sure. Absolutely. And I think the key, is my whole approach to the pandemic. I've been a very
passive.
Well, passive would be the word. I just have been taking everything day by day. I'm very zen. Yeah. At the end of the day,
I'm not that.
Well, David, I don't know if it's because I'm a little bit older and I've been self-employed my entire career. There's been so many things that have happened to me that were unexpected, and so many things that I worried about happening that never did. I just take every day as it comes along.
I'm pretty much zen that way. Like anything in my life that doesn't belong, I remove. I can just, it's done. But the pandemic stuff, well, let's put it this way. You're a member of Ontario for Professionals, our only marketing company that's an approved, you're paying me to fight for you, so I'm doing it. Yeah, so you can sit at home and be zen. Dave's pissing the world off.
That's okay. And you know what? The world's made of a lot of different types of people, right? And I've just taken the approach lately of, if I can exercise some control over something and affect its outcome, I will. But if I can't do anything about it,
no uphill battles for you.
Yeah, no point. There's no point.
That's a good. I always tell people like was it about 5-6 years ago I don't know. I think it was that I'm 43, so 5 or 6 years ago, we're coming out of our 30s into our 40s. Time to grow up. Time to have a calm life. And I'm one of those people that I'm happy with my wife and I don't need anyone else. You and I could not see each other for a year and have the same candid, popular conversation, no skin off my back. But I did this thing called the people diet. And literally, if you were toxic or made me feel ill, I treated you like a food I didn't like. I just avoid you.
That's perfect.
Yeah, and it's just, you're on the people diet. So we termed the PD.
Yes.
And they'd be like, oh, have you seen, Fred? No, Fred's on the PD. Yeah,
That's
cut from the menu.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you don't need,
Yeah, there's so much out there, you
know,
don't need the extra.
you have enough people in your life that need your attention for things. And sometimes if someone comes along and they tell you, and I always say, when people ask you how you're doing, they don't really want to know. But if some guy comes along and tells you all the things that are going on in his life that you barely know, do you really have the energy to give to that person? And I agree, remove them from your life because you don't need the hassle.
I'm one of those guys that like social experiments, and I'm a big dude. I've struggled with weight my whole life, and I get these people that haven't seen me in a while, and they're like, "Oh, you're looking good." You want to have some fun, come up with statements to comments like that just throw them off to the side. I just say, if you walked up and said, "Dave, you look good," I'd say, "You just remember me fatter." And they laugh, but for a minute they're like, it's like, well, don't use that carbon copy statement. Mm-hmm. Know something about me if you want to engage me that's more than just what every other person says. Right? So that's why I say it, my wife hates it. I say it to everyone. They're like, "Oh, you look great, Dave." No, you just remember me fatter. And boom, changes the dynamic, and then we get to like, how's the kids? How's the stuff that actually matters. I don't feel better. I don't look. No one's skinnier through COVID.
You do look good.
Well, you just remember me fatter. But no, I think that Zen approach to life, and I think it's one of the cool things because really, in a 10-year gap that I've gotten to know you and interacted with you in and out of networking groups and this group and everything else, you really have been the same calm, cool, collected guy. And the shy end of it too, because I remember at the networking you were the same way, but once you got in your element and talking, you're a wealth of knowledge. And people have to realize that when they invest in a professional, approved professional or not, you've been doing this a long time. You just might know what you're talking about.
Well, it's true. Trial and error. We spend a lot of time doing it, and as I said, my interest is always your best interest is also my best interest. I want you to be successful in your business, and I want to help you do that, and we do that by applying our knowledge base to designing your ads. Our designer has been with us since the beginning as well. Yeah. So this guy's designed more ads for people than you could possibly imagine.
And probably knows why to and not to do certain things.
Now, I will say that at the end of the day, if you tell me you want me to do something and I said, well, here's what I think you should do, and you say, well, I want to do this anyway, so I'm like, well, you're the client. We'll do it. I'm not going to fight you with it. I'm not going to call you names. But
I say it every day to my clients in architectural too. Yeah. You want it to look stupid? That's fine. I'm giving you the best advice.
Yeah, that's possible. Right. I don't want to hear about it. Yeah. When it's done.
Sign here. That's right. Well, that's it. Right? Sign the proof.
Well, yeah. We do. Shouldn't probably say this on the internet, but we don't do contracts.
No.
And I know that the only thing I will.
That's right. You didn't.
Yeah, we don't do contracts.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great thing to say.
Well, because at the end of the day,
it's called trust.
Well, it is. At the end of the day, I know what I'm going to do for you.
Yeah.
If I don't fulfill that contract, or my obligation, I know what I'll do to make it right.
In my industry, it's a big one. I started asking. I've been doing this 7 years on my own now. I think about 2-3 years ago, I started actually asking why they're asking it. But I get a lot of clients that are curious because we do a deposit, right? Because we're a $5,000 expenditure for architectural plans. We do a deposit, normally of $750, nothing until I'm done.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And the rest of them are like, well, what's your increment payments? Because the other guys are wanting like handouts all the way through. And I'm like, well, I normally tell people, well, that's weird because A, that means they don't have cash or equity, that they're probably not a good business practice to begin with, or B, they're gouging you for no reason. We don't get paid till we're done. That's the way I was raised. Mm-hmm. Like, you take a deposit as a little bit of security. That's to cover your pain, the startup. But you don't charge. Like, you eat your food, then you pay the bill, right? Like, it's done.
So we do things actually a little bit differently in that I always, again, it's my pricing strategy has been I want to keep the price affordable, so that if something happens, like you don't get the results you're looking for, you're not going to be really mad at me. We could charge.
Yeah. So what's that threshold of positivity?
So one thing I do ask in return though is that once you've signed off with us and you have approved your ad, is that we really like to be paid then.
Yes.
And we do that for a couple of different reasons. So the main one is the post office, they get their money up front. And as you can imagine,
tell me the Canadian government wants to be paid right away.
And they're not the cheapest in the world, but they are the best distribution method that you can purchase for what we're doing. And they it's really about once we print as well, the printer, once we printed something, it's hard to unprint it. Yeah. So we like to be a pay, but I reward that up the payment ahead of time with I believe to be a very fair price. And then of course we get more aggressive as well if you wanted to commit to one of our other programs where we reward.
Yeah, I think Karen walked me through 5 or 6 little types.
We reward commitment with discounting. So basically, if you commit to us for 6 months or a year and you prepay us, we'll give you an additional discount. And the main reason that we do that is our job's a lot easier if we know when we go to work in our next campaign.
Well, we just spoke about gas expenses, meals. That means your sales staff, or your would you call them sales staff or client?
Sales is a weird word. I mean,
account reps.
Yeah, sure.
Marketing rep. Yeah. But that means they don't have to beat the road saying, "Well, listen, we have 10 pages or 12 pages to fill," and be stressed. You've got that recurring revenue, which eases your stress. Therefore, you can return the favor.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because I know on Monday morning of the brand new campaign that we've got, and that this happens frequently.
Yeah, whether you're 50 or 90%.
We got to find. Yeah, we got to find. 10 more pages, and the reality is that there's customer attrition. People die. They move away. They sell their businesses.
Yeah, businesses close.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I was going to say was one of the topics we were talking about, but I think it was my grandfather used to say was like where I'm saying you have a wealth of knowledge because you've been doing this a long time compared to, let's say, somebody just started in marketing. I'm pretty sure it was my grandfather, but he was joking once and he said "Oh, that guy's not a plumber. He bought the truck with the logos on it." So you have to have value into the fact that, again, I've been in business 7 years and met you 7 years ago plus, and you were pitching the fact that this stuff works. You had proof back then of retention and recirculation, and here we are 7 years later, and you're saying it's even better, and now number 1 in 3 regions.
Well,
that's again, I can't.
A lot of it is I'm just too stubborn to quit. So I just but I will say
that'll be me too.
It's a very rewarding job. I really enjoy it. It's actually made up, but there's probably 4 different aspects of it. So there's the sales.
Go right into
So there's the sales aspect, right, where we look for the new customers, we track them. There's the customer service element where we're managing our existing relationships. But with people and helping them. Then there's the production side where we do the creative element where we actually start designing the ads.
Yeah.
And then there's the collection side too, which is another thing. We go out and we collect the money, or we finalize the agreements.
Make sure everyone's happy.
Yeah, and then you start over again. So the job is changing constantly. It's always.
So with change, where does Finest go from here? What's on the horizon?
Well, there's a couple things that we're doing, and so one is when the pandemic happened, of course we were. The first year ago, I was pretty
stressed,
concerned. That's right.
I remember talking to Karen how stressed she was.
As most people were, but so what we have done really in the meantime is we have pivoted into doing social media campaigns for people now, and we can actually do video creation. We do content creation. We have writers that we access, and so now we can. If you wanted us to do a full-on Facebook campaign, we can do all of it, and we also were turned a little harder into the solo postcards we were talking about. And so as the revenue for the magazine declined for a few months with the pandemic, we started to do more garages. I do a lot of work for dentists with the solo postcards, and
they seem to be hardcore in this, eh? The dentists
as well. I've got. I was
going to say I saw quite a few in the last.
Well, here in Brockville, we've dealt for a long time with Dentistry of Brockville. Your neighbor just down here. They also Dentistry at Prescott. There's
they have a big co-op of dentistry.
The Sandu brothers have a big footprint in Eastern Ontario, and they're very smart, astute business guys.
Oh, great guys! Yeah, nice guys. I've met them here.
In fact, I'm a dentist I deal with. They're all really nice, just really decent people, and so through me dealing with them, they were the first one we started developing about 7 years ago now, and that's turned into multiple referrals. And I've got dentists in Alberta that buy from us. We've got dentists in Quebec. I've got.
So you can do direct flyers anywhere.
Yeah, the postcards. Canada? Actually, if we have a minute to talk about the solo program, I really love the solo program.
Go right in.
So one of the things that Canada Post does that's really cool, love them or hate them, Canada Post, they do some stuff really well. they've overlaid all of the Stats Canada data that's collected into their postal geopost system.
Okay.
So what that means is that we can identify any city in the country, people by their age of household, number of occupants in a household, average income in a neighborhood.
That's crazy.
It's crazy, yeah. So for example,
I'm a data guy, so I'm sitting here thinking like, good for them.
yeah, it's smart, it's brilliant. And then what we do
Proves their worth.
Yeah, so we can go and, for example,
You can target it right down.
Marketing 101. Most people buy from your business within about a 10-kilometer radius
Yes.
of your store, right? Now, another interesting thing is that if you are a home improvement type of person, you can target a neighborhood based on age. So, I don't know the city of Brockville all that well, but there's neighborhoods here that are older. So
90% of them.
So that's fair. So we could target, for example, if you're a home improvement guy and you know that these houses are 30 plus years old, they probably need a new kitchen,
Yeah.
right?
So or
we
new
can-
roof
or
on
a new
every
roof.
7,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah. So that takes marketing with direct mail to a whole new level where we can actually target based on the Canada Post geopost system. We can do that anywhere in the country, and so
But me listening, it levels the playing field for you because that's all Facebook does.
yes.
They've collected the data of everyone that has a personal page. They know their age, demographic, sex, location, everything. So Canada Post has actually said, hey, listen, anything you can do, I can do better. And your direct to mail now has the same customized. People listening to the podcast and watching, Chris, are so used to Facebook, and I'm picturing right now, how many kilometers is the first thing you set on a Facebook ad, the age type that you're looking for,
Yeah.
key cities, and then the demographics, right? Like I'm looking for bad roofs.
So
the
the neat thing about the postcard program is that, yes, social media is very powerful and we do provide it as part of our services, but one of the things that I know happens is that you see so much advertising, you
Yeah.
just shut your brain off.
Well, it does. That's what I'm saying. Is you
So
guys
you
are
get a-
actually right on match with this.
You get a nice piece in the mail
Yeah.
that's identified, and this one I've got in my hand here is for the retirement home in Ottawa. So we can target a neighborhood. In fact, I've done a campaign for a company in Barrie called Dell Manor, Aurora. They're building a brand new retirement home,
Right.
And they wanted to target people that were 60 plus,
The ones almost ready.
100 grand plus a year in income, and own their own homes. Why? Because they have equity.
That's their
Probably.
clients.
They have money, and they can afford to spend $5,000 or $6,000 a month and to go in this retirement home. And let's face it, if they spend $3,000 or $4,000 in a direct mail campaign and got 5 brand new residents
They're
at
laughing.
$5,000 a month, yeah, it's huge ROI. It's gigantic, yeah. So yeah, and that's to me is where
Well,
it's becoming this is becoming a large part of our revenue stream.
So people can go and touch base with whoever their rep is and contact you. We'll have all the stuff at the end of the podcast. But yeah, I think that solo program is pretty cool.
It is cool.
It's a in-person play on what social media has just started doing, but they're actually getting something that, like you said, with it so targeted with the Canada Post data. Chances are they're going to want to read it based on the data.
So we just did
You're
this.
hitting it to somebody that wants that information.
We just did this really cool campaign a month ago with a local real estate agent in Kingston. Her name was Jackie Blakeney. She's
Yeah.
a wonderful lady, known her for a long time now. She'd approached me with this project, and what she wanted me to do was print up some stickers that said "Save our pets." We've
Yeah.
got a dog and 2 dogs and an iguana and whatever else
Yeah.
is in the house. And so we printed 20,000 of those.
Oh,
We did-
like in case of a fire or
yeah,
something.
in case of fire, you stick it in your window, right? And it had her name and her logo on it. It was just like a public service piece. So then we mailed it out, and at the same time, we layered some social media over top of it, and it basically was like a 1-2 punch. So to me, that's, if you want to really get some super exciting stuff going, you should do a direct mail piece with a solo, and then you blanket the whole area with social media posts saying,
It was me.
yeah, exactly. Or it just reinforces the branding, right? So just layer on top of layer, and that's the best way to do the marketing. Is just to overwhelm people with the messaging. And
Well, and like we said, I think the more is beat that brand awareness, and the only way to do it is to be in front of people. And as I said at the top of the episode, was everyone's home right now. This just makes sense.
Yeah. One of the biggest objections that I have a hard time dealing with when selling our product is I'm too busy. I've got too much work coming in.
I think that was my statement, wasn't it?
Well, that's fair, but you know what? My only response to that is, eventually it's going to stop.
Yeah.
And do you want your abrupt stop to be like a complete vertical down, or do you want to coast in the bottom? And that's
Well,
that's
isn't it the
my-
old faux pas with advertising is people always advertise at the wrong time? Like, it's when you're slow, that's not the time. You should have been doing it 4 or 5 months before.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
you know,
Constant.
you want to do it all the time, and busy or not, you just and we've got people that are super busy that buy from us, and those are the ones. We're in a
Well,
great-
as you said, those are the ones that are going to stay busy.
Yeah, exactly. And if you got a crew of 10 or 15 or 20 people working for you, you don't want to be facing no leads or no potential work in progress coming down the pipe, right? And that's really what it's all about. So I'd rather, it's a good problem to be too busy. David, if I ever say to you I'm too busy, you have my permission to punch me in the face. But I will never say I'm too busy.
Yeah.
Because I know what it's like to be hungry, and you know what? Being too busy that's a very good problem to have. So.
And it is, and especially I think people are getting respect for it in today's era with this pandemic. As we alluded to, my wife's a hair salon, so she's closed, but and I'm a business advocate, man. I'm fighting for people to get back to business, fighting for people to get back to some normality with a rational plan. But with that being said, in the construction industry, we've never been busier. Mm-hmm. We're content to stay in this lane.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's so many losers and winners that we need to get back to that happy medium that we can all coast.
There are people, and I have clients that are suffering. That have done, people that have worked a long time to hope to do the business, and the rug keeps getting pulled out from under them. And my heart goes out to all of them, because I know how hard it is to have a business, and it's
stressful enough owning the business.
It's just bad fortune that you happen to be in a business that was mostly affected. I mean, I have one client in particular that specializes in a playground for kids to go play in, right? And indoors. I mean, talk about just what are you going to do in a restaurant? These larger restaurants that seat 100 plus people, they can't make it on.
No.
Just take out, right?
No.
And
a lot of them have actually, even this round, I've noticed, pulled back on the takeout because, again, the government did it wrong because Easter was there and they all had their food orders in already, and they closed us that weekend. But what people have to, it's one of my pet peeves with restaurants is people have been so rough on restaurants, like saying, hey, why is Chris's Dining not open for me to do takeout? Well, we don't order just one filet mignon. Mm-hmm. They order 100 of them.
Yeah.
And if 100 people don't show up, they eat that cost.
Yes. Yeah.
It's so scary to have to predict. You and I are both, everything I do is print, mm-hmm. right? It's all in my head on a computer and print. You're the same way. Yeah. If there aren't people, we drop a page.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
These restaurants can't just drop a steak back on the supplier or all the lettuce and garnish.
Absolutely.
It's so hard. So I think people have to really respect some of these industries that have chosen to, even though they can be open, not be open. It's logistics and smart money. If you want them here tomorrow, they need to do what they're doing today.
Absolutely.
So,
but certainly it's tough.
Yeah, it is. But we support them all, shop local, all that fine jazz. We made it, man. That's an episode.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it's and surpassed it. This is it. As we tell people all the time, we just did a big campaign. We're inviting mayors and some politicians to come on and talk. It goes by so quick. It's like a phone call. You call that friend. You have a 5-minute question. And then you wonder where your day went because you spent 45 minutes on the phone with them. It's exactly it. So I want to thank you for coming on and talking to us about all this. We'll have you back again in 6 months or so and do round 2. What do you think of that?
That'd be great. Yeah. There's, it's funny. I was worried about what I was going to talk about.
Yeah.
There's probably 5 more things that we didn't even get.
And that's what makes the gravy go around, right? That means, hey, that's my repeat customer on you. Is now I got to get you back to do it again.
Well, let me do a quick plug.
Do it.
So, anybody interested in learning how we can help you increase traffic to your business, you can find us online. We're kingstonsfinest.com. And you can call me at 613-530-6060. I'm sure Dave can reach me as well.
Absolutely.
We're always gettable. So, more than happy to discuss anything that you might want to do. And my last little
go ahead
pitch. One thing that we do with a brand new customer is that if you've never purchased from us before, we'll design you an ad for free, with no cost and no obligation, so you can see what it is that we could do to help your business. And there's no commitment whatsoever, other than to give us a few minutes of your
Which is a great offer, because sometimes the best compliment we can get is thinking outside the box with fresh eyes. So thank you, sir. And like I said, we'll look forward to having you back. Reach out to Chris Jackson at Kingston's Finest Marketing Group, Chris J at kingstonfinest.com.
For more information, visit www.ontapproved.ca. The Pros Talk is an Ontario-approved professionals production. Special thanks to DCE Media Productions, DCEmediaproductions.ca. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe on any of the available platforms.